Welcome to Easy Style with Sami. I'm your host, Sami Bedell-Mulhern. Each episode, I invite a friend, family member, colleague, or just someone I've met on this journey called life to come and share their personal style and approach to business, parenting, life, and everything in between. You'll hear motivational and inspirational stories that will help you refine and build your own personal style. Remember, style is easy when it comes from within. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Easy Style with Sami, and today my guest is Kelly Schuknecht. I hope I said your name right. Kelly, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sami. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this conversation, and I'll have you introduce yourself here in a little bit. But, there's all of these terms that are going around like side hustle and gig economy and, leaving corporate to go to your full-time or to live your passion. I feel like this is something a lot of us talk about, especially on this podcast. So I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about your journey and your experience. We've never met before. And so I think this is kind of, I'm excited to kind of hear how you've navigated this and hopefully inspire some people to take that leap themselves. But why don't you just kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So how do I start? So I'm Kelly Schuknecht, and I am so this is you'll understand this, why I struggle over saying what I do, because this is all brand new to me. So I am a thought leadership marketing specialist. I work with thought leaders, helping them build their platform and reach their target audience. And the reason I was struggling over that is because I'm brand new to this world. I started my business about just under 2 months ago, so it feels very new. Yeah. Although it's growing quickly, and I'm super excited about everything that I'm working on. But it started as really a side hustle. I was in corporate America, working a corporate job up until the end of October, and then was forced with deciding on what the next step was for me. And I dove head on into the world of entrepreneurship and decided I was going to finally grow my business and do what I had been dreaming about for years. So that's the world I'm in now, but it still feels fresh and new and hard to remember exactly what is it that I'm doing again.
I love that. So kind of walk me through the process, because you mentioned you left your job in October. Was it kind of a situation where you'd already been doing some of this marketing on your own, or were you just literally started your business 2 months ago?
Yeah, so I officially started my business 2 months ago. However, it's been maybe a 10-year journey or so to get to this point. So I'll back up a little bit. I started my second real job as an adult was in the publishing industry. And I was in that job for 10 years. I ran a publishing company. When I left that job, I really had no idea what I was going to do. I started doing some freelance work, and I always just had authors who would reach out to me because I kind of had a name in the publishing world. I had a presence, like people just I had a blog. So people would reach out to me. They'd ask me to review their book. And so for a while, I just kind of kept dabbling in this. I would say it's a side hustle, but really it was like a side hobby is probably a better way to describe it, because I wasn't really making any money, right? I was just once in a while I would get a client, I'd make some money. I would do some coaching with authors on book marketing, on writing their book, so I tried some different things over a period of 10 years or so, after I left my publishing job. And so for the last 7 years, I was in a job where I was doing marketing, and kind of started tying the two things together, and how, helping a business owner establish their thought leadership platform often involves having a book. And so it was this really easy transition into, although I was doing marketing, it also, the book piece always just fit somewhere in whatever I was doing. Right. And so, I had been dreaming the last couple of years. My company had been acquired, and I had been dreaming the last couple of years about starting my own thing. That was like the next thing I knew. Like I knew that my job was ending soon because of the acquisition, but I also just didn't really have my head around what I wanted to do. I did. I thought I did, right? Until I had to actually decide. Yeah. And then when it came time to decide, I started moving really fast and making decisions really quickly. Partly because I had already been dabbling in it for many years, like I'd already kind of been figuring out, really I had been figuring out what wasn't working when I had the comfort of a steady income that I didn't have to really worry about it working. And then when I was forced with like, okay, this now needs to work, I started making decisions really quickly around what was going to work and, how to move forward. So that's where I got really focused on not just working with all authors, all books, all stages of the journey, right? I got really clear on I want to work with thought leaders, professionals who want to write a book to establish their presence in their industry. And when I got clear about that, things just like it went from 0 to 60 like really quickly.
I love that because it sounds like you kind of just leaned into, like you had the ability to kind of slowly over time lean into the things that you like, the things that you don't like, and kind of continue to evolve before you had to make that final choice. And I know like for me in my business, I think I've changed it up probably 4 or 5 different times as far as the services that I offer and what I don't offer. Because you learn as you experience. But kind of, do you think that you would have jumped in when you did if you weren't kind of forced to? Or do you think you might still be kind of figuring it out? Like, was that kind of a blessing in disguise to
absolutely
kind of force you to take that jump?
Yeah, I am not a risk taker. So I... as soon as I was forced to make the decision, right, I was laid off and it was like, okay, now I got to figure it out. I started moving quickly. Things started developing like overnight. Like things became so clear because, I guess because it had to, but like also it just, I don't know. It was like I didn't dive off the deep end. I was like pushed off of the ledge. Right. And I had to figure it out really quickly. But I think that like all of those experiences of, I knew for years, like this, I love working with authors, but also in the world that I was in, at the time I was realizing like these authors don't really want to pay for services. They don't, they're often writing their books as their own side hustle, right? And so they don't have a lot of money to invest in the services that I was trying to offer. And I couldn't get my head around, why isn't this working? But I also had a full-time job. And because of that, I couldn't be fully myself. And I think this is where it comes together a little bit, is I couldn't be fully myself online and promote my side hustle. So I was kind of trying to hide it and kind of just not hide it in a bad, but I was just kind of like keeping it. Yeah. Like keeping it, under wraps. I didn't want to post things on LinkedIn because my professional presence was my marketing job, right? And the company that I was working for. So it didn't make sense if I started posting things about writing a book or about thought leadership marketing, those things that weren't making sense. But as soon as I had the freedom to do that, that's where it was like, oh, like I can talk about these things now and I don't have to worry about what other people are seeing. Now I started to figure out like how to take the experience of working with authors, apply that to my professional life. And my professional network then was excited about what I was offering and was coming to me saying like, I want to write a book and I want to, I want to get more speaking events. Like, how do I establish my thought leadership presence? And it just, like overnight seemed to click. But again, like going back to your question, I never would have just quit my job and done that. And now that I look back, I go, man, I should have, right? I should have a couple of years ago, but I didn't feel that safety to do it. And I think that's the hardest thing is just feeling like, how am I going to pay the bills, or how am I going to make ends meet, right? If I quit my job. And also, now I look back and I realize there was probably other options available to me. I just wasn't open to it because I'm, again, not a risk taker. So I wasn't allowing myself to do that. And now I think, man, I'm so happy to be where I am at the moment, but also, I realize now I could have done it sooner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my story is a little similar in that I didn't get laid off. I chose to leave my job, but it was kind of a quick decision, and I didn't have anything lined up afterward because it was just.
I've been there. I've done that too.
Yep. And so I just ended up starting my own business because I was like, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do right now, so we're just going to start doing this, and it's been great. It's been a long road, but I jumped in and immediately started looking for a community online because we think it's easy to start your own business. And in a lot of ways it is, but there's a lot of things that you realized you don't know about. I didn't know how to write a contract or how to make sure, start a retainer with the client. A lot of those things that I'd never done before, you don't really know. And then I started doing direct sales and this passion podcast and all that stuff years later because I wanted to diversify income, because also when you're on your own, a project ends. If you don't have the next project lined up, you're like, well, okay. So there's a lot of things like that you have to kind of learn along the way. So I joined a community and kind of, built my network of people around you. So have you done something similar to kind of help support you in this, or are you just kind of figuring it out as you go? And how are you kind of finding those resources for the business side of starting your own business?
Yeah. So all of the above. So right away, when I decided to start my business, I reached out to a friend, colleague. It's not really a friend, but he's become a friend now, but somebody that I knew in the professional world who was doing a similar thing, but kind of a different angle, not the marketing side of things, but he's kind of more on the HR side. And I reached out to him and said, can you coach me? Right. Immediately I found a coach because I was like, I need somebody exactly what you were saying. Okay. I landed a client. Now what? What, how do I send them a contract? How do I take their payment? Those things, those things I didn't know either. I kind of know what's out there, but it's I just didn't, you have to make a lot of decisions pretty quickly. Cause if you want to get paid, you got to send them, an invoice. Right. So I reached out for a coach, pretty quickly. Got that lined up. That's been super helpful to me because every couple of weeks we meet and we just talk through the things that I'm working through. And he just helps me come up with ideas and then I started my own podcast, and my very first guest on the podcast, I happened to ask her a very similar question, and she had her own, I didn't even know she had her own community. So I immediately joined her community, which was great because then I started meeting some people.
Yeah. And
then I also started my own community. So I have a community called the Author Power Circle for women. It's specifically for women who want to write a book, and specifically nonfiction books. So a message that these women want to share. I very quickly grew that also. So just getting the word out there to women, they wanted to join. And so that's kind of a service line that I'm offering, but then also is helping me connect with women who are then helping me connect with my target audience. And it's all kind of this full circle approach to what I'm doing and how I want to grow.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned that you're risk averse, but it seems like, and maybe it's, I do think for some of us that are in a more marketing-led industry, it's a little bit easier to do some of these things because I know so many people that run great businesses, and the thought of starting a podcast is feels like the biggest, most daunting thing. For me, writing a book, I'm always impressed with authors. It is not something that I feel equipped to handle. It's like running a marathon for me. Like it just feels so daunting. But starting a podcast is like super easy, and it's something that I feel comfortable doing. So I could do this all day long. So what would you maybe say to people that are kind of jumping in, if you are more risk averse or more nervous about kind of taking those chances to do some of these things that you're doing, because you've done it all pretty quickly. It's a lot of work, but it's also kind of a scary thing to put yourself out there like that. So, what might you say to people who are nervous about that piece? And how do you kind of find what's the word I'm looking for? To be comfortable to just put yourself out there like that and see how people receive you.
So I love this question because this is what I stand for. So in 2020-ish, I think mid 2020, I started dabbling in TikTok. I started doing TikTok videos, and I had people in my life going, "Why are you doing that?" Right? And I want to say it's not my personality because that's what people would tell me, but it is. I mean, I wanted to do it and I wanted to explore. It felt uncomfortable, but I was like, I want to put myself on video so that I can get comfortable with being in front of people. Again, people are like, why do you want to do that? I don't know. I had a drive to do that for whatever reason, right? So I started doing TikTok videos. I started doing YouTube videos. I started, a couple years ago, I committed to starting to post on LinkedIn every single day. What was I promoting? Nothing. I was just putting myself out there. And I am telling you, that has made all the difference in going from having my little side hobby to immediately being able to grow a business overnight because people knew who I was. I mean, like on this small scale, my little small scale world, I only have 4,000 followers on TikTok, but I have followers on TikTok and people know who I am. My little community, it's like that's my community of people. Same on LinkedIn. I maybe only have 2,000 connections on LinkedIn, but the people who are engaging with me are very aware of the journey that I'm on right now. And they're cheering for me. And I've had people reach out to meet with me and they want to hear about what I'm doing. And none of that would be happening if I hadn't put myself out there. I just think it is, even if it feels like believe me, like it is the most unnatural thing for me ever. But even if it feels so unnatural to you, do it. If you have if you have a thought that you want to grow a business someday, whatever that industry is, I think it's really important to do things that make you uncomfortable and put yourself out there and grow your network online, even if it feels like you don't really know where it's going right now. You don't know what it will lead to eventually down the road.
Yeah. Well, I think I love that you talked about how, maybe it's only 4,000 people on TikTok, but I think that's so healthy because you're not worried about how many people are following you. You're worried about, are the people that are following me connecting with me? Because you don't need to have 100 clients. You couldn't handle that, right? So it's like, how do we grow authentically with the right people that are going to cheer you on and grow with you and ultimately become customers of you? It's better to talk to a quality small number than feel good about having millions of people that are there. And that probably makes it easier for you too, because it feels like a safer community. Like they're holding you just as much as you're entertaining and providing value to them.
Absolutely. I mean, so I love how you said that. I mean, you can have 1 million followers, and if you put something out there and nobody really cares, it doesn't matter. I mean, so yeah, if you have 1 million followers, you may be able to make an income on the platform, right? Sure. But that's not what I'm going for. I'm wanting to genuinely connect with people. And that's a big difference. So, 4,000 followers to some people, that's a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, like if you're looking at influencers, like I'm not an influencer, but the people that I've connected with, I've met so many authors on TikTok because of the content that I put out. And and really what I want is to provide value for them, right? So I'm not selling anything on TikTok. I want to connect with people who are going to learn from what I'm putting out there and be able to apply it to what they're doing. If they're writing a book, I want them to be able to learn how to market their book. Or, as I'm talking about my business now on TikTok, now I've taken a little bit of break the last few weeks as I've been solely focused on growing the business, because that's been, my only focus right now. But yes, but as I get back to posting valuable content on TikTok, I know that my followers are going to be excited for me, and they're going to be cheering for me and wanting to send me, connect me with people in their network who would benefit from what I'm doing. Like, I know I'm going to have that because I've made genuine connections with people. And that's what's so important. Same on LinkedIn. I have people like the coach that I just mentioned. That's a person that I have connected with on LinkedIn, never met him in person, never worked with him professionally, just we've communicated through LinkedIn. And when I needed a coach, I immediately went to him and said, I need your help. Right. And that has been a great connection for me to have, a great resource. It's been very valuable to me. So it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality of those connections you're making.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so what's next? You started your business, things are going well. Like, kind of what's the next big hurdle that is kind of the scary piece for you, or kind of the next challenge as you continue to build and grow?
Yeah. So I would say, I'm very lucky and fortunate in that things grew quickly for me. My original goal was I've got to replace my income, right? I've got to replace my corporate income, which was not a small task. That was milestone 1. Milestone 2 is then I want to grow a legitimate business. I talked to a lot of people early on who, and I had several tell me, like, you don't really want to do that. You don't want to hire people. Then you have to manage all of that. And basically, just do your own, just be your own, solopreneur. Yeah. And, I took that advice and I went, no, I actually do want to grow a business. So, milestone 2 is, and I've been able to hire a couple of people already, which has been great, but I want to grow the business to a point where I am growing the business and I have the team that's doing the work and serving the clients, and, that we're able to grow comfortably and not feel, big dreams, right? Like it might be harder said than done, or easier said than done. I mean, but harder to do than it is to say. But yeah, that's the next thing for me. Like I got to a really great place within 3 months, and now I want to watch this business grow where we're able to serve clients. And when I say that, I want to provide value for clients who want to, I mentioned my author power circle, like helping women write their books and giving them that guidance that they need through that journey. It's so rewarding. And then I want to help, business owners establish their thought leadership platforms, grow their business. I want to see them thrive because of the skill set that I am bringing them, and that, that what I'm able to provide to them through the team that I'm growing.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. And I think that's so smart that you are kind of taking the time to think about what you want your business to do. Because I know early on in mine, I thought that was what I wanted, was a bigger business, because that's what I saw other marketing coaches doing. And I quickly realized that that's not what I want. I want to stay small, right? Everybody has their own thing. But I think it's so smart because when you do something like this and you reach out for help, everybody has an opinion on what you should or should not be doing. And so it can be really tricky to navigate. Okay, wait, is this really best practice strategy that's actually going to help me, or is this detracting from where I want to go and what I actually want for myself? Because we all have different goals. And so I think that's fantastic that you kind of took that step back and you were like, well, no, I do want to have a team and I do want to hire and I want to figure all of that out. And who knows, maybe you wouldn't have gotten there without somebody telling you what you didn't want. Sometimes we need that too, to see what doesn't fit to kind of help us push through. So
yeah,
I love that.
Well, that was one of the things early on that, that was one of the things I had this like LinkedIn post rolling around my head. I haven't written it yet, but now you've confirmed I should write this. But one of the things that struck me early on was how opinionated people were about the business I was growing. And that was another thing that came to me pretty quickly, where I was like, I was taking everyone's advice in and I wanted to hear everyone's thoughts. But then I started realizing I don't agree with all of these things, right? Like, so one person would tell me to do this and somebody else would tell me to do something else. And I had to start filtering it through my own lens of what I'm good at, what I really want to do. And what I'm good at is growing teams. That's what I've done. I grew a marketing team over the last 7 years and had this just high performing, amazing team. And that's what I loved. So it's like, I don't want to be by myself all the time. And if for that person who does, great. That's great for you. Yep. But I know that I don't want to be doing my own thing all the time. I love having a team of people that I'm working with. And so that's the direction I'm going, and that's okay. But it really, I think that was one of the most shocking things to me early on was how people would tell me, you don't want to do that. You don't, and I would go, okay, and I'd think about it for about 24 hours and I'd go, no, I do want to do that. I would have to like start telling myself like, no, you know yourself and you know what you're good at and you know what you want, you know what you'll enjoy down the road. So go in that direction and don't worry about what anyone else is telling you.
Yeah, I think you absolutely have to trust yourself. That's part of going off on your own. And kind of the last thing I want to ask you about before we kind of wrap this up is, what was it like with your friends and family and your close inner circle? Because, I started my business in 2017 and I still get comments from like my parents or like not my husband and my kids. Although my son did tell me the other day that I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I'm like, but
oh yeah, they don't get it.
Workful. Which was hilarious. But I get a lot of, are you working today? Or like, I don't get what you do. Like, they don't understand the job. So like, did you get some of that from your family? Because I think a lot of times that can stop us from doing some of these things because, like you said, people will tell us what they think about what we're doing. And once you get into the online space and solopreneurs, entrepreneurship, like consulting, all of that, you see it everywhere and it doesn't seem as weird. But for most people, it's like you work from home all the time and you do what? So how was that transition for you?
Yeah. Well, I've been on that journey for, almost 18 years because I started working remotely in May of 2007 when I was pregnant with I always remember because I was pregnant with my middle child. And so back then, remote work wasn't even a thing. Nobody worked from home in 2007. So nobody knew I worked. I mean, I have just been through that journey, like where everyone thought I was a stay-at-home mom. I would have family members would just drop by at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, Hey, hi, I can't hang out with you, right? I'm working, nobody understood that. Now that's more acceptable. But now I'm in that phase, exactly like you were talking about, where I realize a lot over the holidays this year, how little I have in common with so many people in my life, because although the work from home thing was the differentiator before, now it's I'm growing this business and I'm doing these things that like most people in my life have not ever experienced. And so it is kind of, it's isolating, and it can be a little lonely because you're just like, people don't understand me or what I'm doing. Going back to your earlier question though, I think that the biggest thing to do for people who are paving their own way and doing their own thing is to find those connections, the communities online, whatever that looks like for you, but to find those connections where you are frequently communicating with people who do get you and do understand what you're doing. So even if you're in your personal life, people don't get it, you have those people who are, you're learning from them, you're sharing experiences with them, and that you feel that connection. Otherwise, it is very, very isolating if you don't find that.
I 100% agree. I have been a part of a group pretty much since I started my business, and that is the sole reason why I stay. I started because she helps, with setting up your systems and building your business and growing and getting, those things in place, which is what I needed. But I've stayed because the people that are there, like, we get each other and we know what we're going through, and it's a place to go when you're struggling, to be like, and you hear, oh yeah, we've been there, we've done that. Here's, you get advice from people that are going through what you're going through, and not people that just like to give advice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, any last words of advice? If somebody's thinking about stepping in or starting a kind of their passion project, their side hustle, their side hobby, whatever, anything that maybe you would go back and tell yourself years ago to kind of help you make that choice to step into it a little bit faster?
I think, so one of the things like I said, I always had that side hobby, side hustle, whatever. And my husband would always say to me, he read a book. I cannot think of who wrote it. I want to say it's maybe a Donald Miller book. Could be wrong. But anyway, there was a book that he read where the person who wrote it talked about how you should always have a side hustle. And every time I would think about not doing what I was doing, my husband would say, like, you should always, even though he doesn't have a side hustle, he has his own businesses, whatever. But he was always very encouraging about that like you should always be exploring those side hustle opportunities, even if it's really just a hobby and you're not making any money, but always exploring something outside of your 9-to-5, because you never know what's down the road for you. And it may naturally grow into a business while you're in your 9-to-5, or you may have something to fall back on when if you find yourself in a situation like I did where you lose your 9-to-5, whatever that looks like. But I would just say, if you're thinking about pursuing something, do it. Just absolutely do it. And if you're doing it and you feel like why am I doing this? This isn't working. Stick with it. I just think it's really, really important to have that outside of your regular work, where you're always kind of leaning into something that gets you excited, and something that you see potential in, even if it's not, you're not seeing that potential right now, but like you think that could be there. I think it's always worth exploring. So don't talk yourself out of it. Lean in and do it.
I love that. I can't remember who said it, but somebody said the difference between businesses that succeed and the ones that fail are that the businesses that succeed, they just kept doing it. You only failed because they quit. So I think that's such good advice and such a great place to end this episode. But Kelly, if people want to connect with you, learn about your community, or just kind of the work that you're doing, or maybe just hang out with you on LinkedIn, how can they do that?
Yeah. So my name is not easy to spell, but I'm sure you can put it in the show notes or something. So I'm on LinkedIn, LinkedIn, Kelly Schuknecht. Also TikTok, if you're a TikTok fan, also under my name, Kelly Schuknecht. If you're interested in the Author Power Circle, if you're looking to write a book this year, check out the Author Power Circle. My website is kellyschuknecht.com.
Great. Yeah. And we will put that in the show notes at easystylewithsami.com/34. So you can grab all of those links there. But Kelly, it was great to meet you. And it was such a fun conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much again for having me on.
So grateful to Kelly for joining me today on this week's episode of Easy Style with Sami. I am just, so loving meeting new people through this podcast and getting to have conversations with incredible people. If you know somebody that would be a great guest for this podcast, has a great story, or maybe it's you, shoot us a message. hello@easystylewithsami.com. SAMI. And I hope that you subscribe wherever you listen. We're on YouTube at Easy Style with Sami and wherever you stream your podcasts. So please make sure you subscribe. We have great episodes coming out this year every other week, and I would hate for you to miss out on them. Make sure you share them with somebody who you think could be inspired by these stories as well. I love recording this podcast and sharing stories from incredible people, and would love to have you help me in doing them. For now, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.